She thought she had lost everything when the man she loved walked away because of her weight. Heartbroken and humiliated, she never imagined that fate would put her on a plane across the aisle from the very person who had shattered her world. And when he offered her a seat with a warm, familiar smile, she froze, realizing too late that he wasn't just any stranger, he was her ex. Hello, my friends. I am Olivia, and this is Olivia's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I had spent the last 2 years convincing myself that I was reclaiming my life. After Alex had left me, muttering something cruel about needing someone who takes care of themselves, I had stopped looking in mirrors, stopped stepping on scales, and mostly stopped expecting kindness from anyone. My days had become a quiet routine of work, late-night takeout, and avoiding social gatherings where whispers of my weight could reach me like sharp little knives. Even now, as I wheeled my carry-on through the crowded airport, I could feel the familiar knot of anxiety twist in my stomach. Air travel had always been a small battlefield for me. Shoulders brushing against strangers, announcements echoing through the terminal, every glance from a fellow traveler feeling like judgment. I had learned to shrink into myself, to occupy the smallest possible space. I found my seat on the plane, window side, and began stowing my bag. My heart was still trembling, a leftover echo from watching my reflection in the departure gate. The flight attendant smiled politely, her voice a soft hum against the low roar of engines warming up. I sank into the seat, feeling the upholstery cling to me as though it understood my shame, and stared out at the tarmac, letting my thoughts drift. And then it happened, the moment that made my stomach lurch like it had back in high school when Alex had first criticized my lunch choices. A soft cough beside me. I turned, and there he was. Not just any stranger, not some vaguely kind-faced man. It was him. His presence hit me first, a wave of recognition that made my knees tremble. A flash of his familiar smile, the curve of his jaw, the same tilt of his head when he listened too carefully. It was all unmistakable. He looked at me for a fraction of a second, and something in his eyes made me pause. There was no mockery there, no trace of the cruel comment that had haunted me for years. Just a quiet hesitation, as if he wasn't sure what to do with the memory of me, or maybe unsure how to begin again. Then, his voice, soft, polite, almost impossibly gentle, cut through the roar of the engines. "Would you like my seat?" Time slowed. The words seemed absurd, almost impossible to understand. My mind raced, heart hammering, my fingers gripping the armrest as if it could anchor me to reality. This was the man who had left me, the man who had made me feel invisible, offering me a seat on a plane, right here, right now. And in that instant, I realized something terrifying and thrilling. Fate had a sense of irony, and I was about to be forced to face it. I blinked, unsure if I had heard him correctly. My mind scrambled, searching for a polite refusal, a reason to escape, any excuse all. But before I could say anything, he was already reaching for his bag, standing, and gesturing toward my cramped seat. "I insist," he said, his voice steady, calm, but somehow carrying a weight that made my chest tighten. I wanted to shrink into myself, to disappear. But something in the firmness of his gesture, the sincerity of his eyes, made me hesitate. Slowly, almost unwillingly, I nodded and murmured, "Okay." My voice sounded small, foreign to my own ears, as if it belonged to someone else, someone I had been afraid of becoming. As I shifted into the aisle seat, our knees brushed. A jolt of memory shot through me, sharp and electric. The way Alex used to reach for my hand, now replaced by this stranger-like familiarity that was impossibly, painfully familiar. I forced myself to look straight ahead, pretending to focus on the in-flight safety video, pretending my heart wasn't racing, as though it had recognized something it had longed for, even through the pain. He settled into the window seat beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his arm, the faint scent of his cologne, the same scent I remembered, the one that used to make my head spin in high school hallways. My stomach clenched. For years I had told myself that I had to forget him, that moving on meant erasing every fragment of memory, every detail that made my heart ache. And yet, here he was, alive, real, and sitting just an inch away from me. Olivia? His voice was hesitant now, almost vulnerable, and it made me flinch. He hadn't called me by my nickname, not yet, not the way he used to, the way that used to make me feel like I was the only person in the world he truly saw. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. Yes, it's me. There was a pause, long enough for the hum of the plane engines to fill the silence, and for me to notice how much I remembered about him. Every subtle tick, every expression, every tiny habit. The years apart had not erased him from my memory. If anything, they had sharpened it. I didn't expect to see you here, he said finally, and the way he avoided my gaze made something inside me twist. A mix of curiosity, anger, longing, and fear battled within me. This was the man who had walked away, the man who had left me feeling unworthy because of my body, offering now what? An olive branch? A test? Or simply a seat? My heart pounded as the flight attendant came by, collecting drinks and offering snacks, her presence a small distraction from the tension coiling between us. I sipped my water, barely tasting it, feeling trapped in a bubble of anticipation, of unspoken questions that neither of us dared to voice yet. Then, the moment I had dreaded and secretly longed for arrived. His hand brushed mine as he reached for his armrest, a deliberate, cautious touch, but enough to make my pulse spike and my breath catch. I looked up, and finally, he met my eyes. And in that gaze, I saw something I hadn't expected. Recognition, regret, and maybe, just maybe, longing. And then he whispered, almost too quietly for me to hear over the engines, words that made my entire body freeze. I never should have left you. The words hung in the air, heavy and electric. My chest tightened, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I wanted to run, to laugh, to scream, any reaction but the one I felt building inside me, the ache of old wounds reopening, raw and relentless. You, what? I managed, my voice trembling, betraying the storm of feelings I had buried for years. His eyes darted away, and then back to mine, vulnerability laid bare. I made a mistake, Olivia. I left because I was afraid of how much I cared, afraid that I wasn't enough. But I see now, it was never about you. It was me. The memories came flooding back in a torrent, the nights I had cried alone, wondering what I had done wrong, the endless mirror gazing, trying to shrink myself into someone acceptable, the humiliation of hearing the cruel words that had shattered my confidence. And here he was, admitting he had been wrong, but after all this time, when I had rebuilt myself in his absence. I wanted to hate him, to push him away, but my body betrayed me. My hands shook, my throat burned, and the memories of the laughter we had shared, the quiet moments, the silly jokes, the way he had made me feel seen, made my heart ache with a bittersweet longing. Do you even know what you did to me? I whispered, voice breaking, as tears pricked the corners of my eyes. I know, he said, soft but unwavering, and I've regretted it every single day. Seeing you now, it's like I've been given a second chance. But I don't expect forgiveness. I needed you to know the truth. The plane rattled as it hit a pocket of turbulence, and the world seemed to shudder with us. I gripped the armrest, feeling the tremor in my own body, trying to steady the emotions threatening to spill over. Part of me wanted to scream at him for the years lost, for the pain inflicted, for every cruel word he had ever uttered. But another part, the part I had hidden, the part that still remembered the warmth of his hand in mine, wanted to believe him, to forgive, to trust that maybe, just maybe, this was fate's strange way of letting us heal. I I don't know if I can trust you again, I admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Not yet. Not after everything. I understand, he replied, leaning slightly closer, careful not to overwhelm me. And I don't expect you to. I just wanted to tell you that you deserved better. You still do. Something shifted in that moment. A fragile bridge formed between our past and this unexpected present. I felt the stirrings of hope mingled with fear, wrapped tightly around the echo of pain. His presence was a paradox, a comfort and a threat, a memory and a reality. Then, as if the universe was conspiring to force the truth into the open, his phone buzzed on the armrest. He glanced at it briefly, and the color drained from his face. A name flashed on the screen, familiar, impossible, like a ghost from the past. My heart sank. This wasn't just a reunion of two hearts bruised by the past. It was about to become a revelation neither of us was prepared for. I leaned slightly toward him, my voice catching. Who is that? And in that instant, everything I thought I knew about this encounter, the apology, the second chance, the possibility of healing, was about to be thrown into chaos. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the phone as if deciding whether to answer. I could see the conflict etched across his face, the same face that had once made my heart soar and then crash all at once. Finally, he exhaled slowly and turned the screen toward me. My eyes widened. The caller ID wasn't just anyone. It was Alex, the man who had left me all those years ago, the one who had broken my heart over something as shallow as weight. My stomach twisted, a mixture of shock and a bitter, vindicated anger. The universe, it seemed, had a cruel sense of timing. He's my brother, the man sitting beside me admitted quietly, his voice heavy with a mixture of guilt and fear of my reaction. I didn't think you'd recognize the number. I never told you because I wanted a clean slate, a chance to show you who I really am, not tied to your past with him. I felt my body shake, not from fear this time, but from the tumult of emotions crashing through me, relief, disbelief, and a strange, trembling hope. All these years, I had blamed myself, twisted myself into someone I wasn't, all because of Alex. And now, here sat the man who had once left me, offering me an apology that felt like redemption, and the truth finally untangling itself before my eyes. I stared at him, searching for any hint of deception, but there was none, just sincerity, regret, and something deeper, a longing to make amends, to be the man I had once loved for real, not the illusion of someone else's shadow. Slowly, almost hesitantly, I reached out and touched his hand. His warmth met mine, familiar and grounding, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to breathe without the weight of shame pressing down. My voice caught again. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, he replied. Not yet. Just let me show you that I can be different, that I can be someone you deserve. You've grown into someone incredible, Olivia. I see that now. Tears threatened to spill, But I blinked them back, letting a small smile break through my guarded exterior. The plane hummed around us, the passengers oblivious to the quiet storm of reconciliation and confession unfolding in this tiny pocket of space. And as we sat there, hands brushing, hearts cautiously reopening, I realized something profound. The pain of the past, the cruelty of those who didn't see my worth, had not defined me. The man beside me, the stranger who was somehow the one I had loved all along, had offered me not just a seat on a plane, but a chance to reclaim my heart. I looked out the window at the clouds drifting by, feeling lighter, freer, and almost giddy at the possibility of what could come next. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust, after all, isn't rebuilt in a single moment. But for the first time in a long while, I was ready to try. And as the plane ascended, carrying us toward a future neither of us could predict, I realized that sometimes life has a strange, beautiful way of giving second chances, right when you think all hope is lost.